What's up, guys? So, long time since I recorded a video, but I'm going to get into it quick today. So today I'm going to talk about the only real route to happiness, coming from Taoism, Stoic philosophy, and many ancient traditions. And that is the way that you manage your expectations and where you place your efforts. With this two focuses, you can basically construct your thinking and your behavior in such a way that you find deep satisfaction. I'm going to go through the logical, the logical background, plus just elaborate on some ways that this is done, practically speaking, because I'm not just making stuff up. I've trained with a Taoist priest for almost 5 years. So rather than just sort of, deciding that I know what's what, which is fine. I mean, experience is everything. But I decided to go to the route of actually engaging with these practices in the way that they were designed, to see what and how and what results they produce and how they do it. And that understanding is going to be laden through this video to give you an idea of if your goal is to get to a state of sort of equilibrium, happiness, peace, then you can have something to stew on here. So it's no big revelation. You hear a lot of people saying it because Stoic philosophy has become popular among sort of the entrepreneurial groups, and also just in general, it's a popular set of beliefs or practices because it has practical results. And so if we're talking about wanting to have a sense of happiness, right? So we need to first talk about what happiness is from this perspective, because obviously you could see it in many different ways, but we're going to see the outline, how we're talking about happiness, then talk about what can get in the way of that, and then what to do in order to get to this form of happiness that we're talking about, right? So, okay, happiness being a sense of satisfaction, basically life satisfaction, and a sense of sort of equilibrium, peace, and comfort and confidence. All those things come into the realm of like a balanced, happy mentality and or life situation. So if we look at happiness from this way, happiness is the response to expectations. So let me just give an example, right? If we expect that we're going to get, say, paid at the end of the month for our work, and then something happens and you don't get paid, then that will put you into a state of unhappiness, right? It'll cause, because you set your expectations in such a way, you build up an idea of what's going to happen in the future, and then to the degree that that expectation is met, we have a sense of satisfaction or a sense of loss and stress. Now, if we want to have happiness that's actually under our control, then we have to be aware of what we actually have control over. And that is really just our behavior and our own expectations. The only thing that we can really affect is our own, what is generated internally and what comes out of us rather than what goes into us. So if we're putting if we're going to put off being happy until we have some sort, until we get a certain amount of wealth or a certain relationship or whatever it is, if we are saying that right now we are unhappy because we want something more, and that something more is in the realm of the external world. Everything's in the external world, but if the conditions that we place on our happiness are things that are out of our control, then we are actually a slave to the external world, right? We are saying that our internal state will be directed and determined based on the outcome of this external situation, which ultimately is not under our control. And okay, you say, oh yeah, of course, well, it is under our control if we want to get more money or whatever it is. That's true. But what is actually under our control is our behaviors and what behaviors will lead to the outcome. So if we want a stable sense of happiness or reliable sense of happiness, we need to basically focus only on what we can control. Because if we set our expectations based on our own action, then when we complete those actions, we'll get the sense of satisfaction we're looking for. That's it. Now, if we want to look at different ways that this can go about, I'll talk a little bit about Taoist practices and which practices are that in Taoist training, or in these trainings for any sort of life mastery paradigms, which again, it's the same as Stoic philosophy. We are very far removed from any true Roman philosophers and Greek philosophers. Their sort of culture died out, but this is still retained in Taoism, and the principles are much the same. What we look at first is how we deal with the body. So how we actually deal with the foods we eat. The level to which we allow our body to crave extremes. So in Stoic philosophy and in Taoism, they speak about plain food. You have to be able to enjoy plain food. If you can get satisfaction from eating just bread and butter, then your needs are much less. So you can have a lot more satisfaction needing a lot less. So in both of these things, it comes down to not exposing ourselves to higher and higher forms of ecstatic release, and in terms of drug experiences, or these sort of really high manic things, like really fancy food and all this stuff. All of this basically trains your body to need these more extreme sensations, which actually leads you to a more imbalanced and less satisfied state. Instead, you want to focus on things like health, right? In Taoism, the basic foundation for your happiness and peace, for them it's seeking enlightenment, but that's what we call it in the West, and really it's a state of equilibrium, and release from external conditions, which is all based on our internal and our actions. So keeping a good state of health, right? Pushing yourself to strengthen your will, because if as long as your will is under your control, then you can always meet your expectations and do it in a way that is at you basically want to be experiencing the bare minimum of what's necessary in order to gain happiness, and that way you can always have the most happiness. So taking care of health, focusing on our will, those are one and the same, because in order you can go by way of the mind in terms of starting by organizing your thoughts, or you can go by starting with returning the health of your body, getting to a state of fitness, and waking up early. This is the way they do it in Taoism, and it's also done in many, many, many traditions in the yogas. Those are all the same. Is waking up very early and breaking that desire to the need for comfort, in order to strengthen your will, so that you are at the effect of things rather than the cause. So there's physical health, there's mental control, and then there's in the realm of relationships. Now, this is an interesting one, and it can be quite tricky, because there's this idea, I see it a lot, and I've been through it myself, is this need, like the idea that it's about you have to be nice to everyone, you have to have good relationships with everyone. And that's not necessarily the case, because if that's the case, then everyone who seeks to master themselves be above and beyond the normal would be at the whim of people who are just completely emotionally unstable and get offended at everything. It's not about making everybody happy. It's much more about maintaining equilibrium. It's about allowing it's about, if you take full control or full focus on the control of your own situation, your own thoughts, your own behavior, then the imperative is to allow other people to do that. So it's having a hands-off approach with other people, not being concerned about what other people do, and focusing purely on your own behavior eventually leads to a state where, if you're not trying to control anyone, then no one's trying to control you. Obviously, that's a vastly oversimplified, and we can go further into that. But the major thing that I've found, at least with Taoism, when it comes to dealing with people, is this yielding quality, where it's like release control, the want to control, the release your expectations being dependent on anyone else's opinions, anyone else's feelings, or anyone else's presence in your life, and you will have an enormous amount of freedom. So that's a brief one for today. I've been away, so I've actually been working on 2 books, which are finished and are really very interesting. What I did was took all of my concepts, and not my concepts, but everything that I've been talking about on this channel over the past year or so. I readdressed and then applied to first principles. So I took, all the evidence from computer science, from complexity theory, and from non-dual metaphysics and all this stuff, and I reapplied them as first principles to epistemology, to ontology, ethics, social organization, and then built a system with addressing the logical errors that I've been discussing and that are apparent in Western thinking, and it led to very interesting results. So it's not like anything. I didn't do anything. It's not any big new theory of my own. It's just reapplying what we now know, the new evidence, to the paradigmatic problems that have been been facing Western thinking, and then which led to some very interesting conclusions, which I then used as a framework, reapplied it to itself. You'd have to read it to understand what I'm talking about, but it led to some very super interesting results, which I'm very excited about, and I am released, and I'll put a link in if anyone's interested in reading it. So yeah, a little bit of a slow start back, but we'll get back to doing this channel, and I'll start posting more videos again. So hopefully, if you're still watching this, appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.